building on what the chairperson said. In terms of the constitution, we have to have a secret ballot, electing the chairperson, the deputy chairperson, the treasurer, and so on. And then there's also the option to go on. So may I ask that we do the following. And I don't want to be unconstitutional so much, but that we build on what the chairperson said, and that if you wish to serve on the committee, that you please give your name to Mr. Mike. Where's Mike? Mike? And then there would be a meeting, and we would make sure that we have a broad representation of current students and of the broad spectrum of our alumni and those that are about to become our alumni. Can that work for us? If not, then we're going to go through the nominations, and we're going to vote for each candidate. What is it that this meeting wants? I'm not available as the chair, as the master of ceremony said. So, can we go this route? Did we just hear from anybody else?
I think so.
Can we go the route that you give your name? Because I know there are people that are really burning to make a contribution and to serve on the committee. That those that are not available, that are currently on the committee, we will do, and that we will then, from the list that we get here, we will, then constitute it. Can it work for us? Prof. Mklap, you always have the right answer. What do you say? I'm putting you on the spot deliberately. You're always advising me. Correctly, sir.
I think it will be correct to do so.
This part of the hall is just too quiet to my liking. What do you say? Calling there at the back. I've got your name, your first name now. But I remember you well at the very back. What do you say? I'm fine. All right. Yeah. Ask your opinion.
Thanks for the platform. I'm Zakes from David.
Yeah, Zakes, and ask you your opinion.
Yes, I think it's workable to have a committee made up of volunteers who will put their shoulders to the wheel. Unfortunately, you can see by the turnout, as much as Medunsa, UL, SMU has already produced more than 30,000 graduates, we still have to do a lot of work to get them active in the alumni structures. So I think it makes sense that people volunteer for the task as opposed to us just dominating at random. We are also spread apart the country.
Yes.
Some of us don't know each other and all of that. We might meet somebody who will bring in an element that will be highly beneficial to building the alumni structure. So I second what Prof is suggesting.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you so much. And we will then, by way of our normal communication with alumni, we will then inform you about the final outcome of all this. We're going to continue to establish chapters. I believe that's the way to go. That we take the university and the alumni function closer to the people. You can't expect people from Durban and from Cape Town now to come here for an AGM. We've already started with the Limpopo chapter, and we will definitely work on it. consensus opinion, then we've made up the time that I wasted. All right, so let's go into the master of ceremonies, the next phase of our ceremonies.
Thank you very much, yeah. Thank you very much, Prof. Now, we still have Professor De Beer giving leadership, quality leadership to this institution. Thank you very much, Prof. A round of applause for you. Straight to the point, didn't waste time, straight to the point. Our new dean, Professor Lionel, just told me here that he's also a class of 1988 from Wits. So he's here to celebrate with all of you. He's also a class of 1988. He's already a dean, now be worried. You know this he is, it's just of 1988. I'll get very worried. Professor Mokong, I can see you in my program, but we're actually in part 2. We used to do this because we used to have the minister coming here, so we put him on part 1 so that he speaks and news. But today we want, as we get into part 2 that we are doing now, for the class of 1988 to be the ones that call you to the stage. I am done. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a wonderful audience for the short time I've been here with you. The speed of delivery is critical. We now move very fast with the new dawn, as you know. Thank you very much. We'll take a 5 to 10 minute break and we'll get our new MCs to come and take over. Thank you. I was born before technology, yeah? Yeah, it's working. Let's have our status and the transition must now happen. Thank you.
Good evening. I don't think before we start formally with the second part, I saw the surgeon from the class of 88. I got tables. You don't have to sit outside. Jeff, please. Join your colleagues. I think we don't have to waste time. People are anxious. My class told me today they want to dance.
Yeah, that's why I'm
talking. The program says I'm Dr. M.J. Maluleke. I'm actually H.J. Maluleke. I'm going to be directing this program with Dr. Singa P. Now, Dr. Singa P is also a pastor. And we're going to call her to the podium to please open with a prayer for us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you please stand? Before we start, we will take a minute of silence for the classmates, for the class of 88 that have departed. We bow before you. We come before your throne in praise and in worship. We come before your throne in thanksgiving. Lord, you are the great I am, the Prince of Peace, the wonderful Counselor, God Almighty. uNkulunkulu omuhle, uNkulunkulu esibonelelayo. Sibonga ukuba kule ndawo, uNkulunkulu omuhle. We thank you for safe travel and mercies. Namhlanje uNkulunkulu omuhle kule ndawo umile awushintshile uquqa. Ufana nezithembiso zakho ezimbili yebo amen. Ubukhulu bakho nobukhosi bakho Nkosi ubonakaliswa kule ndawo. Sibonga Nkosi engcwele ukuhlangana, sibonga umusa. Sibusise Nkosi. We greet each other as reminiscing about the past years. 30 years is indeed a long time. It was not by our might nor by our power, but it was by your spirit. We honor you with our lives. Sibonga Nkosi ukuthi usiphile ithuba to be who we wanted to become. Ngegama likaJesu Kristu waseNazaretha, we prayed and we thank you. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to ask for forgiveness here. My closest advisor and friend and person who carried the interest of the SMU close to her heart also passed on. I think it is apposite, ladies and gentlemen, that we all also stand and we observe a few moments of silence for our Chancellor, Dr. Edna Molewa, who passed on a while ago. I think it's appropriate that we honor her. She, within a very short space of time, introduced the young university to some very important networks, and she opened doors for us in a very short space of time. Through her intervention, we've just learned that we received 30 million rand for the greening of our campus, and also to make sure that the buildings that we build comply with those basic aspirations of our country. Can we stand for a minute and just observe style? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think the entree is served there in the corridor. So, is that correct? If we could then just move to enjoy that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you should understand that during our time, we did not have many things. We did not have cell phones. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter. There was no Instagram. So some of us did not manage to have pictures taken then. And believe it or not, to the young ones, we did not even graduate. We did not graduate, we were boycotting the graduation. The older people will know what I'm talking about. So, my class had the oath-taking ceremony, and that was a major event. And we actually last saw each other after the oath-taking ceremony. So they have a lot of catching up to do. Without wasting any time, I would call Dr. Mahapa to come and introduce the guest speaker. Should we call him a guest speaker? I don't think he's a guest, but the keynote speaker. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm given a very difficult task here to introduce Prof. Muhogo. And I said to myself, if you don't know Prof. Muhogo, it means you are not streetwise. You don't have to be introduced to Prof. Muhogo. I can introduce Prof. Muhogo to you because you are not known, he is known. So I put my introduction this way. Dear class of 1988, throughout the volatile periods of our WhatsApp or the messages towards the union, many people ask me, who is this Solim Lanti? Then I said, Solim Lanti. They ask me private, I don't put it on WhatsApp. So I thought, where's socks? Socks where are you? Okay, when you come here, let me gossip. I think I'm going to tell you who Solim Lanti is. He's a boy from that house, a certain section of Sishio. You know, Sishiyo's got high place, high class places, and low class places. There are two low class places. That house, where Soli come from, and Masakane, where Malema comes from. Yes. And those are the only places that produce great people. We are from the place where there's a shop and something in the school, and we had nothing. They are from that. And then I met him firstly in 1994 when I was doing Form 1. I was rural, I was in the location, so always they regarded themselves as cleverer than us. And fortunately, we were not doing well, me and him in class, because I was from rural, he was from urban, and he thought he's cleverer than me, but he proved it. June that year, he was promoted to Form 2. I remained in Form 1. That's where we parted. And I said, we never had good friendship, but it was not fight. And then he went to Medunsa. I went to Jeffco. And on the way back to the campus, he said, come and do me the same man, you pass. But I always said, I don't want to be so in the same place. That's why he qualified in 1983, 85 went to Medunsa. And I've been with him. That's the guy who organized this thing. And he does everything perfectly. From that Form 1 class up to here is the man that will be. So, ladies and gentlemen, going to Prof. Muhogo. Prof. Muhogo, we don't know how to address you. This class of 1988, you taught them. They must decide. You can't be our colleague. I might be a gynecologist, but I'm not Prof. It's farmer. I don't think so. What should you call him? Should you call him Papa? The father of gynecology. Say, I agree, you are the father, so I'll go like this. Papa, the class of 88 is here. The class of 88, if you don't remember Prof. Muhogo, is that class which in that year, there were girls from Eastern Cape, yes, they used to hold the class ransom. And the only question ransom saying, Asipali from a college. The Arabian leaders is not there, used to be Stigo. Not Stigo, Studna was there. That is the class that, if you don't remember, the class of Saras Mutiti. Saras Mutiti is that guy when we were doing housemanship. And he was in obstetrics, I was in gynae. He was very lazy. And when obstetrics is busy, gynae is cool and I could sleep, he would come and wake me up and say, Nakamojo. Actually, he was the lazy guy. He's now the head of orthopedics at Calafo. Can you stand up, please? That is the He's the class that really requested that you come and address them. They thought nobody else can address them except you. They adore you much. And for that, please, give a big hands for Prof. Muhogo for attending this occasion. Shows respect and appreciation for our father. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Sit down. I'm not as talkative as Masika, but I'll finish. You know, this class, when we met here, we've seen each other about 8 years ago. And then we met with guys, and then, when we sit for a long time, guys sit for a long time, you can't wait 2 hours before you go and empty your bladders. We want to empty our bladders. Then I realized that age has caught up with us. We're sitting there, 4 of us, talking, but nothing coming out. After some time, something came out. Then I remembered Prof. Rife saying, he started with hesitancy. Anyway, we talked many anecdotes before here. We're catching up, waiting for you. And we talked about ONG. You taught them the golden rules, family planning, family space. Most of them, they've got 2, 3 children, which is the education that you taught them. Very few have got 4 or 5 children. Even those 4 and 5 children is not of the inexperience. So then I asked them, guys, how do you come here for 2 or 3 children? And he says, every time I'll ask my wife to take a pill. It's a family pill. And make sure you take a pill. Now they're telling me the inverse is true. Yes. Every time for the show to start, the wife must ask the man, did you take a pill? So age does it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not young. The one foot in the grave. So just to introduce who Prof. Mohoko is, that's not part that you don't know, you don't know, teacher. The only thing that I want to tell you is that Kimutokwa. Mutokwa is a certain type of breed of species of human being. They are from the north. Mutokwa, you can diagnose him by the presence of the red blood cells on the membrane. There's a certain antigen. It's called RY antigen. RY stands for royal antigen. Royal antigen. He's from Makotopo. When you say Makotopo, those who are from the north, they think it's Makotopo of now. No, Makotopo Mahai. There used to be Makotopo where they were planting marabu, everything, very fertile area. And they were forcibly removed there. They were put in a Namakotopong now. You can't plant anything except people or something. So I hope they'll gain Namakotopong. And one thing I want to tell is that, like all children of priests, Stigo is a priest, Professor Stigo Nuru, Stigo do you ever think we can produce a priest? And then last where I am. I was watching Stigo's daughter on the WhatsApp with the academic achievement that he had. Stigo's daughter is more educated than Stigo. I said, this is typical of an our root. Son of priest, the son of a priest, and all what he said I was analyzing. He's the first black head of department of ONG. He's the first black principal of Medunsa. And I said, this old man, everything is first. And then somebody might know, oh, there's something that is last. He's the last one in the family. So, as we know, this was things that you didn't know about him. And he is our mentor, our teacher. And you know him better, he's a smiler, very passionate. The unlucky one are we who trained under him. In every corner has got 2 sides. We know even the other side. We knew what not to do, not to get to the other side. We might have not known what to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, by way of another standing ovation, can we welcome the legend, the father of modern gynecology, Professor Ephraim Twedi Mohoko. Ladies and gentlemen, can you sit down? I must acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Mohoko, sitting next to Prof. Mohoko. Thank you. Now these things are not there. How do you put this together?
told somebody it was 1983, but I said these fellows are too young because the 83 was the second completing class. So 1988, I want to thank them for having forced me to do something I decided I would never do, to come and talk at the occasions like this or classes that are completed, because I keep coming to functions. They've tried many times with the first ones to succeed. And you must thank Daily, you see, we call him Daily. He is a relative of mine, so he used that as a pressure to get me. Anyway, thank you very much, Daily, because it will always be a pleasure to be with people in any way associated with the Medical University of South Africa. I want to thank you who have made me sit for a few moments and think about this institution. I know it is unique. It's the only one that has changed 3 times and still remain alive. It is absolutely unique. When I was asked to speak, and I said to my wife, who has more time for me now that she's retired, and she makes sure I eat well now. I said, they're asking me to speak, what can I speak about? Do I want to get in and tear into the status of health in this country? And I said, that would be too political. And I've always had the greatest dislike for politicians. And so I didn't want to find myself dwelling with politics. Then I said to her, I'll take some thoughts about the institution that I matured into, that I lived for, that I love so much. I first of all said I would remove, dispel the untruths about its origin. It was not started by the apartheid government. It wasn't their thought. It wasn't their idea. When the idea was mooted, I was one of the senior teachers in the University of Natal. I was Dean of Students in Natal. I was at the examination committee of Natal. I was in the admission committee of the University of Natal. 6 leading black academics took a trip to Natal. The Dean of Faculty of Medicine granted them 5 minutes only. They went on because they had seen the status of production of indigents as doctors in this country. I want to use the word indigent because in South Africa we are everything. We are black, everything. Let's talk of indigents. Maybe we might be talking about the same thing. Because the medical school in Natal was started by the United Party of South Africa that wanted to train native doctors. They then lost elections in 1948, and our apartheid government took over. But I think they were kind enough to continue with the idea of starting the medical school in Natal. Remember, it was for indigents. I want to tell you why these 6 great Africans that I respect so much, that political South Africa hardly ever talks about. Or Dr. Tingo, highly educated black people, They went there because the trends at the native medical school of the number of students, doctors produced a year was rapidly diminishing. I was in the 5th class that qualified in Natal. I do remember on the board, when the results came, there were 12 names. Of those 12, there were only 7 indigenous. The situation improved a little bit. But 2 years after I qualified, that's the class that qualified end of '63. That was the last time the number of students who qualified in Natal, the indigenous to the rest, please permit me that, because I hate talking of races in this country at this time of white. But that's the last time they were equal. From '63, the number went down. The year before this gentleman came, if I remember well, there were only 5 indigenous who qualified. They then came to Natal to beg that let's try and produce more indigenous as doctors to meet the need of the indigenous. My dean, a great man I respected so much, later we became such great friends. We used to play golf together. Said you can't train a doctor from graduate of Bantu education. Now this is a fact. Not political jargon and nonsense. It's a fact. Those people were out of the dean's office in 5 minutes. They talked to me and they left. The following day they were in the offices of the minister in charge of Bantu education and Bantu affairs. They wanted their medical school. They said the medical school you built for natives in Natal is no more saving natives. I want to say to you, it came from responsible, educated, black people. This medical school. And I want to make this fact because it later played a very important part when I had to drop everything in Natal against lots of political storms and head northwards, where I came from. Especially, you can imagine, students at that time. A university student is a queer animal. It's an adult, educated adult, who pays for nothing, who therefore takes decisions that don't put anything together. I remember they got into my room as dean of students, and I asked my secretary to give them a cup of tea. And they said, we have come here, we have heard you are appointed to this new apartheid university to train doctors. Is it true? I said, President of SRC, the media would never publish a story like this, which is false, because I'm true. It is true indeed. I'm moving on. And they said to me now, resign immediately as Dean of Students. And I said, yes, I would be very happy. But you didn't appoint me. The university appointed me. I'll go and tell the university, you wish me to be fired immediately. The university said, you remain Dean of Students until you leave here for this medical school, which I did. And I called the rest. SRC back, I said, the university that's my employer, that appointed me, say I stayed. And I stayed. And I stayed. I would like this to come in. People said, how could a person like you go to this apartheid university? The fallacy of that was, all education was under apartheid. Why pick up this one? And I asked, when black children go to this medical school, they say yes. I said, do they deserve to be told? It's not their fault. They say yes. I said, then I'm going to teach them. And I said, I've come right up in the University of Natal. The man who's head now is a friend of mine, is always a friend of mine, and we're registrars in the same department. He's well fit, he's young, and average weight, I think I must run a unit as a head, and I'm going up there, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to help teach in this new so-called apartheid institution. I came up and I said to myself, I know politically, you know, scary thing about politicians, they don't have to have facts. They don't have to try anything. They just have to have emotional belief about anything and put it in, and it must go. This is unfortunate. So the first thing I did was, I went into the curriculum, a drawn the medical school. There are many things I didn't agree with. And I went to the Vice Chancellor and I said, we can't have a curriculum like this, which starts to enforce or infer inferiority into the people who are going to produce. And I had an educated man who listened, and I said, we go and get a curriculum that's like all the other medical schools, and we start to teach it at Medunsa. Not only did it end there, I then created a social club, which was called Haranpua Social Club, for short, GAROS. The last president or chairman of that organization is none other than Professor Robert. But we started, and Robert Colella came as a student there. But then I started. But the important thing about the social club, which we call social club, we didn't want it to be politically implied, is that we then to businessmen outside, teachers, lawyers, and we met on a monthly basis at a private place and we discussed things away from it. One of these great people is the retired judge, Senegal. He was in the group of people who looked, we studied the curriculum, we created the curriculum from Medunsa, which nobody could criticize. That step in place, and I was saying, we had to start. What followed this phenomenon? Medunsa has always been affected by phenomena. As I've already said, people talked about it being a apartheid university. All the universities were in the same apartheid law. They were according to a race of a person. They were universities for Jewish-speaking people, mainly Witwatersrand, and Pretoria for African-speaking white people, and you go on, and we had the University of the North, mainly for those three big races in the North, the babies, Zongas, and the Benders in that university. It was all according to it. Why pick up this one? So, the first phenomenon is, I started thinking, is there something wrong with my way of thinking? That we're living under this law, and we have to live. And I did a few things in my lifetime. And one was, and many people still today haven't forgiven me, that I represented South Africa and the United Nations, where we were discussing versus commission and a discussion called in by United Nations to discuss health education in developing nations. And I represented South Africa. And I felt I had to go because I was mainly representing the developing part of South Africa. I had to be with the rest of them. Unless, of course, people wanted to live in mediocrity and have the saying that I never went. I went there. And that didn't please many people because I was there. But we were invited. So I went there. And I did learn a lot internationally being there. And I think I came back to Medunsa perhaps more enlightened and better to serve my people. There was, at that time, I was then just head of OAD. 5 professors started there. I never forget these 5. They had excellence as their main wish, and they were going to live for that. They were at Medunsa almost every day. Many of them started rounds as early as 6 from east of Pretoria, going that side. I was lucky. First I stayed in Hartridgeville, then I stayed on the campus. So I could always beat anybody if I wanted to. I was right there when it happened. But I looked at the methods my colleagues used. That they accepted nothing but what was the best for them. And when by the time we produced the first final year class in 1982, some of us had already started producing postgraduate. I know the very first one of mine graduated before 1982. And it was very surprising. I want to say this, I'll never forget this, that I got to Medunsa. For the major part of my first 5 to 6 years, I had only white postgraduates joining my department. Hard as I tried to attract the indigenes into a university of indigenes, it didn't happen. My first graduate was Jackie Better. When he qualified, there were already 6 postgraduates who were white that I produced in Medunsa. I'm putting this because, much as I don't like politics, I believe we've become a nation of critics, not of doers. We point fingers and we do very little there. And it took a long time for the tap to open. When it opened, it became a flower. They then came, they realized that indigenous head can produce gynecologists that can be like all other gynecologists. Perhaps to tell you about Denry, the first head of this, maybe the one I like always to brag about, you know, if you have to brag, is that I was the first black fellow of the College of Medicine of South Africa. I always want to brag. I wasn't the first gynecologist because Machupa Padele trained in Britain, and I was the first two, as they say. Machupa was the first. I followed them. Well, that's why I became the first one at the universities. Thank the priest you're talking about, who kicked me out of his house when I said I got rooms to do GP work in Atteridgeville. And in his usual way, he said to me, "Is there a school in Atteridgeville that teaches medicine?" And then he prayed over 30 minutes. Praying his God. And he taught me this. I always pray my God before I come. I prayed him even to talk to me, so that I don't talk too much nonsense. He's prayed about a heathenic son who thinks everything is money. For 30 minutes. When he finished, I'd given up the idea and I arrived in there, and the first thing I did was to go to Professor Clayton and I said, I want to specialize. I didn't even tell them in Atteridgeville. They'd already given me a house and they were building rooms for me. I didn't even go and tell them I was doing it. But those are things to talk about. And I wanted you to know that. Now, the first phenomenon I've talked about, that is this institution had to beat a false interpretation of the laws of the country at the time. It had to beat it. The second, and I still want, I hope, my good party, and I'm an ANC member, I don't think I'm not, I joined way back in 1953, so came over, and the first thing they did was they said they are removing the veterinary school from Medunsa. I could not understand the reason. I had meetings galore with leaders of the party about the reasons for removing veterinary school. At the time, we were producing 25 veterinarians a year. I don't have the figures for now, but last time I looked, less than 5 indigens were being produced a year. And I foretold this. I said this was going to happen. I did that. I told them this was going to happen. So I still think, I hope, somebody will become kind to me so that I can say, I hear people usually say, people were killed during the strike. It is right if somebody comes to confess what they did so that the thing can be said. It's one of the things I would like the organization to tell me what was the reason behind closing the veterinary school at Medunsa. That's the first thing. Then when I thought this is the evil we went through, but two of this B of this phenomenon came the idea of magic. Remember, this was the Health Sciences Institution of South Africa. The only what Sfako Mahato is now, Medunsa was. That's what it was at the time. It was very expensive. It was very expensive to run, I agree. It needed a lot of money to run Medunsa. And I'm sure, I feel sorry for Professor. He needs to raise a lot of money to do it. But he's strong. I've always marveled at how he has done with building Sfako Mahato up to now. I'm very grateful. You've taken the job, you followed it. You seem to be doing well. However, I try as you say, to find out why we are being merged. And at the time when they talked of mergers, principals of the historically disadvantaged universities led by me had visited the government many times when we were asking for money to upgrade the quality of the historically disadvantaged institution so that they can come to the level of the relatively advantaged institution. We saw the ministry several times. At least one of these principals who were with me, still alive. If you don't believe me, you must look for Professor Nkondo, ask whether I was telling the truth. we said we need, and we went and got people in economics, they worked out the exact amount of money to be needed to upgrade the universities, which we said were in the backyard of the most disadvantaged and poor people, to make them a quality education which they could reach easily without having to travel money. To me, it looked very good argument. Once we're talking about that, we had there will never be money like that. We were going to merge the universities. Medunsa was initially to merge with North and Venda. I don't know the political strength, but somehow Venda argued themselves out of the mess. And the two were together. Now, this phenomenon is worrying me. I want somebody in power one day to tell. They don't have to announce maybe if they fear to lose votes for the next election. They can tell me in private. Maybe I'll say, why merge an institution with another one 300 kilometers? Why do a thing like that? And both of them were disadvantaged. They didn't have means to carry the situation. The rest, I think, you know, that measure, what it did about it. Then, of course, the right thing, and I think from our prayers, happened. Then they were sent to come back as Fabo Mahado. Needless to say, Fabo Mahado, if you want to go, it's a homeboy of mine, he comes from the north. I have nothing against him. I knew a bit of him from reading. He was a great leader of the African National Congress. I have always been unhappy. Why we have had to change the name? Why would you come back and say, yes, Medical University of Southern Africa, which he did very well. But what's the name I suppose? I said to myself, we do that, and we will go in and put our shoulders behind this and push so that this new part, the third part of the phenomenon comes through and goes forward. I'm quite aware. The ideas about what they were going to do was Fabo Mahado. I was always told